Well, hello, all my friends in Texas, Oklahoma, and other areas of the South. This is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Water Outlook recorded on May 12, 2013. Well, for most of the South, it was a fairly quiet and unorganized week as far as precipitation. You can see areas in green received some significant rainfall, about a half inch or so. Yellow a bit more, up to 2 inches of rain. And more significant rain along the eastern coast of Texas into Louisiana, where much more significant rain fell, those pockets of red. So I mentioned in last week's briefing that it would be scattered, but there could be some welcome rain over parts of the state. And you can see that a majority of the state of Texas and a much more large area of Oklahoma and Kansas at least received some rain. But for the most part, I think I'd sort of call it more modest type precipitation. Now, if we look at the percent of normal, that puts it in perspective. It really doesn't show a real clear pattern. We've got some areas of below normal precipitation, some areas of above normal precipitation. And when we're looking at recharging soil moisture, I would really like to not just see as much heavier rain, but more widespread rain. And what you can see here, for example, north central Texas, parts of south central Oklahoma, well below normal precipitation. Other areas, pockets of above normal. So sort of probably when you average this all out, it comes out to fairly close to neutral for the week. But there are certainly winners and losers as we went over the week. But the bigger picture is still for Texas, western Texas. You can see soil moisture anomalies are very low. And then over the eastern part of the state, still low, but not as much. You can see in Oklahoma the recharge that we've seen in the form of snow in winter and now more recently in rain. So soil moisture is actually close to normal over most of the state of Oklahoma, except for the very far west. Central and eastern parts of Kansas are actually trending even towards maybe above normal soil moisture in a few spots. So we definitely see, like I've talked about for quite some time now, this trend here of significant improvement in this region, lack of any improvement over this region, and then right here in the middle sort of scattered as far as the improvement that we saw over winter into early spring. And you can trace that in the drought monitor as well. You can see that the very deep reds indicating still lingering areas of significant drought, either extreme or exceptional, persist over western parts of the southern area. A bit more improvement over parts of Oklahoma and eastern Kansas. Stream flow reflects this very closely, with green indicating normal stream flow, red below normal. We have some localized effects around the Houston area due to the recent very heavy rain. Stream flow in there is either very high or actually towards flood. But the overall trend over Texas is below normal stream flow by all those red dots. Now, this is the pattern that we've had for quite some time now. We've had this upper low, and for the Midwest, it's been cool and showery. There's been quite a bit of precipitation in that area. But this is where the energy has been. The energy has been associated right along this jet stream here, and most of the south has been to the south and outside of that area of energy. Now, we are right on the edge here, so that's why we do get some precipitation from time to time, mainly Oklahoma, eastern parts of Texas, and then if we get further west, you see it's really outside that flow. Now, we're going to have some very significant changes over the next week or so. Unfortunately, if you're looking for rain, like most of our region is, I don't think you're going to like my forecast. Now, here's the jet stream early this week. What has happened is this area of low pressure loft shifts off to the east. Jet stream pushes well to the north, and that's going to mean a couple things. It's going to be warming temperatures and all the atmospheric energy, and the shaded area here in gray is the increased wind speeds. That's going to be well to our north. Now, you might remember that, you might have heard over this last week, there's been a record low number of tornadoes this season so far. And really, I think the reason for that is because that upper low has brought such cool temperatures to most of the nation. And when you get the cool temperatures, you usually don't get the contrast with the cold and warm air. You don't get severe weather. Well, now we're going to get a different type of pattern where the energy is going to be so far to the north, it's going to be such that you might see towards the summer. So any activity would be scattered and you wouldn't expect any organized severe weather either. So in the south, we do get a lot of our rainfall from severe weather, and without that, it looks like the trend will definitely be going again towards the dry side. If I look at late this week, we see not only has a jet stream moved off to the north, but it's also much weaker. This means not just for the south, but for a large part of the nation, looks like a very quiet week. I wanted to show you the ensemble of model runs, and these are all these little squeaky lines here. You can see different models sort of give you a little bit further north jet stream, a little bit further south. In any event, they are all pretty far north, and the green is climatology. So it's saying that typically this is where the jet stream would be this time of year, and look at the cluster of ensembles well to the north. So just another way to say that not only is the jet stream going to be to the north, it's going to be unusually far to the north. Now let's take a look a little bit further out, 6 to 10 days towards week 2. The purple dashed lines are indicating a neutral anomaly, and the green is the jet stream, and it does look like it dips a little bit further south. So that's going to bring the chances of precipitation, increase them maybe over the middle part of the nation. I don't think it's going to bring it south enough to really bring much rain over Texas, other than maybe the far northern part. Now there could be some scattered, I'm not going to say no rain, but it really doesn't dip all that far south. It sort of relaxes a little bit to the south. So if we look at the next 7 days, there is some scattered precipitation later in the week primarily, but for the most part the trend looks like dry conditions over most of the region, and we're going to have to see that scattered precipitation that could occur, but I think the actual placement of that is somewhat questionable because the energy and the forcings that are forming that are going to be somewhat weak, so it's hard to say exactly where the precipitation will be. Now, if we look at week 1 and week 2, this sort of reinforces what I was just saying as far as the change in flip-flopping of precipitation. Week 1, we see a very strong dry pattern, dry signal over a large part of the area that will extend from the Midwest into the South. Then in week 2, it flip-flops, that's the bottom image here, where it looks wet. But look, it doesn't reach all that far into the south. It stays primarily over the Midwest. I think it could brush Kansas, could brush parts of Oklahoma, but then if we get into Texas, it looks like much less precipitation and continued dry trend in that region. Unless the jet stream dips further south, but right now I really don't see that. So here's the long-range forecast through May 28th. Wanted to sort of take a look at it again. The precipitation here, this corresponds to what we're seeing this week. So you can almost subtract that as we get further out and pretty much connect these two areas here. And it really looks to me like we're looking at a prolonged period of below normal precipitation over most of the south that's going to last right through the end of the month of May. Now, it does look like there will be some areas drier than others. There could be some scattered precipitation. I think Oklahoma is in a better shape, especially the northeast and eastern parts, perhaps northeast Texas, but West Texas, West Oklahoma, South Texas looks to me like below normal precipitation continuing right through the end of the month. As you might suspect, for the most part, that's going to mean soil moisture is going to continue to dry out over not only the south, but large parts of the nation over the next week. So the takeaway points from this week's briefing: jet stream shifting to the north. Unfortunately, the jet stream we have had with this upper low has brought some rain to the area, but it is moving up to the north. That will mean temperatures will warm, generally a quiet pattern. Perhaps some scattered precipitation late this week, but it looks like that will be scattered and not all that heavy. And then after that, it looks like the general trend right through the end of the month is below normal precipitation. I know for many of you that's not the news you'd like to hear, so hopefully things will change not too far down the line, especially as we get into June. But right now, it looks pretty quiet. Hey, I hope you all have a nice week. Thank you for listening to my briefing. I will be updating it again next week.